Hi guys, I'm Lauren, that awkward plant girl. Welcome back to my channel. It's so good to see you guys. Thank you guys for popping in. I have a new mic. So if you've been here for a while, then it's gonna sound a little different. But yeah, hopefully better and more clear if I am using it properly. Today I want to talk about the asparagus fern. Mine definitely looks a little wonky, and I am not an expert in this guy by any means, but I've had so many questions about it, and people have been doing the exact opposite care that it needs, and it's causing a lot of problems for them. So I really just wanted to address that and see if I can help you guys out. So this is going to be a care guide for the asparagus fern, but just please keep in mind that I am confident in my ability to keep this guy alive and to give advice on it, but I am not an expert. I don't have multiples of it. I did buy this plant as a little teeny tiny plant at the end of last summer, and I have kept it alive all through winter, despite me not having the conditions that it actually enjoys. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with this, and I'm just going to kind of go over what I have learned about it so far, and maybe some of this can help you. Alright, so first thing right off the bat, what is an asparagus fern? It's also known as a foxtail fern. Essentially, it is related to the asparagus family and the lily family. It is not an asparagus that you can eat. It is not edible. It is toxic to both pets and family members. It does have these very big, long green fronds that have little stems shooting off of them, and they create more fronds. Super soft, super fluffy. I really enjoy mine. It comes in a light neon green color with the new growth, and then it fades to this deep emerald green. It stays soft the entire time, and it's just so cool to watch.
A few moments later.
Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. The baby woke up and I had to go and put him back down to sleep. Alright, so we're talking about the asparagus fern. I don't remember what I was saying about it. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Okay, so basically, from what I have learned about this plant is it is from South Africa. It is from a very hot and humid place, so that's kind of what they like. They also like a well-draining mix, and they want to be allowed to dry out. The asparagus fern is not a true fern. They are based in the asparagus family, but they are unedible and toxic. They are also related to lilies, which is why they are considered toxic. Do not eat any part of these ever. They are not asparagus, even though they are called an asparagus fern or a foxtail fern. The reason they are called a foxtail fern is because of the way their fronds go. They look like these big, bushy, beautiful little foxtails. So that's where they kind of got their name from. Whichever direction the light is pointing at is where they are going to end up pushing out their new growth. So just keep that in mind. If you have it indoors and you have it up next to a window, you're gonna have to keep rotating it just a little bit, just a quarter turn, so that way you can keep the growth even on all sides, so you don't end up with rabbit ears like me. Because they will reach out for that light. They're from South Africa, so they're below the equator, and they get quite a lot of light down there, especially compared to a region like mine where I am up north in Washington State. I don't get very much light, especially indoors. So this plant gets bright indoor direct light, morning light shining directly on it. It gets the full morning, and then that's it. Could it use more light? Absolutely. Is it doing just fine with what it's got? It's making it. So it's pushing out new growth. It's pretty happy. It's not a very sad, upset plant. So I mean, don't give it full direct light because their fronds are very thin and they will break. I'm sorry, their fronds are thin and they will dry out really quickly, and then you'll see a lot of shedding if you give it too much light. But for the most part, it's fine. It'll be okay. My feet are cramping. What I have noticed with this plant is if it doesn't get very much light, then it will exfoliate and it will elongate. It will not be as compact and bushy, but if you set it outside, then all of the new growth will be more compact and bushy. So essentially what I have tried to do is just get it through the winter without overwatering it, and then in the summertime and the springtime, like I'm going to be putting it out probably in the next week or two, and that way it just kind of gets the opportunity to grow, you know. So that way I can get that outdoor light and not just be stuck with my indoor bathroom light. Another thing about these plants is because they are not true ferns, they actually like to dry out. They do not like to be wet all of the time. So if you're keeping them constantly moist and you're treating them like an actual fern, they will rot. They will die back if you can allow the root ball to dry out, then they can come back to life from that root ball, provided the root ball itself hasn't rotted. So if you do have a rotting plant that has died back all of the way, go in there, try to remove all of the rot as much as possible, put it in a well-draining mix, water it when dry, and put it in as much light as you possibly can, and make it warm and humid. And that should allow it to come back. These do not have a dormancy period. They are below the equator, so they do not have a dormancy period. They will die back in the sense that they will lose fronds, they will shed their foliage somewhat, but they're not going to lose everything and die completely back. They will slow down their growth or stop their growth altogether in wintertime, but they do not go dormant, and they are definitely not like other ferns where they die back completely. If your Foxtail Fern is dying back completely, then it's definitely not supposed to be doing that, and there is some type of an issue. It probably at the very minimum needs a repot or a change of living conditions. Some other issues that I have noticed with this plant is at the very base, when it is dried out way too much, you will start to see some browning. I will zoom in closer on this for you, but you will start to see some browning, and you will see that the foliage is starting to fall down. The little needles per se are starting to fall off, and that just means that it's underwatered and it needs some water. If it is completely and totally wet and that is happening, then you are overwatering your plant and you need to adjust for that. Ideally, a repot of some kind would most likely help you. Like I said before, they like a well-draining mix. So if you get them in a peat-based mix and you bring them in your home and you're constantly giving them water, that is a recipe for rot. I do not recommend that. Another thing to note is that when it gets too thick and it gets too bushy, you will have the inside fronds start to turn brown and completely die off. Not just at the base with a little bit of the needles, but the entire thing will start to die off. Totally normal. It's just because it can't get enough light to sustain itself. It's okay. You just cut them off and let them grow. It'll grow new foliage and it'll be just fine. If you notice any fronds that are discolored, like a little needle patch here is kind of brown or really pale, and then over here is like a light neon color, but the rest of it is kind of like an emerald green, that is essentially telling you that it is nutrient deficient in something, and it probably hasn't been fertilized in a while, and it just needs some fertilizer. So that's all that's telling you. It's not anything super crazy. Mainly the death of these plants comes from overwatering because they are not used to it in their location. They do come in, the new growth will come in, and it'll be long and skinny and look kind of like a little asparagus stick until it starts to open up, and it'll keep elongating and get bigger and bigger. So the little teeny tiny strand that sticks out from the get-go that looks like an asparagus is not an indicator of how big the foliage is going to get the entire time. It will get bigger from there. So, and the older, more mature the plant, the bigger the fronds are going to get. They can get up to 3 feet high. So it can be quite a very large plant. Another thing to note is these are not frost tolerant plants. So if you get snow and frost in your area, I do not recommend planting them outside or leaving them outside. I recommend bringing them in. I did also want to add that these are invasive plants, so if you're going to plant them in your yard because you live in a tropical climate, make sure you plant them in pots. Make sure you are not allowing them to spread freely throughout the yard and whatnot, because they will grow up to 3 feet, they will take over everything, they will be very bushy, and like I said before, they are toxic. So it's not something that you want like your local wildlife to be eating on a regular. You know, you don't want your cats coming and chewing on it and stuff. So just definitely make sure that you are keeping it contained, and because the roots are from a giant root ball, a lot of it can extend underground, and even though you cut it back, it can come back again later. So it's definitely just better safe than sorry. Just like with mint, it will go crazy. Just keep it contained as much as you possibly can and just plant responsibly. I guess. So that is all I have on this plant for you today. If any of you watching have anything else to add on this plant that you have noticed in your observations, please leave it in the comments down below. Hopefully this gives a little bit more of a direction if you guys do decide to get this type of plant, because they are beautiful. They get so big and fluffy, and they're just incredible plants to watch grow. They're very unique structure and just really cool in general. I will let you go. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.